how do I do this without just blasting you with glare right now? This is a thing. This is a mess. It's fine. You're just gonna have some glare. Sorry about it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you are new here. Hello, my name is Roxanne, also known as By Bun. I'm a mixed media artist, illustrator, and maker of things. In case you missed it, over on my Instagram or my TikTok this year, or even here on the channel, on the shorts area, I've been posting a number of these throughout the month of October. I embarked on a art challenge of my own of sorts, of trying to create an array of illustrated paper dolls. I knew that I wanted to do this as sort of like my October art challenge. There's so many art challenges that happen in the month of October. You've got, traditionally Inktober, you've got Peachtober, Mab Graves Drawloween. There's tons of them, right? October, I feel like, is the month for art challenges. So I always try to do at least something of some sort. I know in previous years I've done Inktober, I've done Drawloween a couple of years, I've done Peachtober the last few years, but this year I knew I wanted to do something totally different. And initially I knew that I wanted to do some sort of paper doll thing, just because it's just kind of a format that I really wanted to play around with. And I had been making a list of dolls that I wanted to kind of create. And then once the Peachtober list came out, I decided to try to pair some of those ideas with the prompts and then also develop new ones for the prompts. So you'll see that the majority of this follows the Peachtober prompt list, but I did at the back half of the month kind of end up drifting and doing my own thing. So I think the last 5 of this batch was my own thing. But even then, I think there's a couple of random ones throughout that didn't fully match a prompt, and I just kind of did it anyways. So yeah, a long story short, I was loosely following a prompt list, but also kind of doing my own thing. And yeah, in total, I ended up creating 22 handmade, hand illustrated paper dolls, and I thought it might be fun to give you a little tour of them all. Now, like I said, I've been posting them over on my Instagram, so definitely check those out. I've been posting sort of like more of the little process videos with like fun thematic music or like dialogue from the movies and whatnot. A lot of this is pop culture references, most of which is also going to have a bit of a spooky twist because that is my favorite. Outside of the little short form content that I had put on like my Instagram and even here on shorts, I also have sort of longer form videos over on Patreon if you want to see more of like the behind the scenes sort of process of these. There are 3 different videos that are up on Patreon, kind of just showing like some of the sketching, more of the brainstorming, the actual assembly of things. They're just kind of more long form content of how this all kind of came about. So there's 3 of those videos. That's over on Patreon if you're interested. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. I am going to do my best to do this in order. Will it actually end up in order? Probably not. But I have a nice big pile here. They're also double-sided. I was using some packaging out of my Etsy shop that I will also they'll probably live in this if I'm being completely honest with you. But it was the easiest way for me to store them and work on them as I went along. There's typically 1 paper doll per thing here to kind of maximize my materials. So for the most part, I have tried to put them in order. As I was working on these, I did a number of them at once. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take them out and chat you through all these little paper dolls. This was day 1. I think the prompt was acorn. I knew I was going to do this kind of regardless. This is one of those ones where, did it really fit the prompt list? Not quite, but I just did my own thing anyways. I did the little pumpkin guy from Over the Garden Wall. The characters in that series is just absolutely incredible. So I knew I had to do something from there, and this was my first one. So it was fun putting this together and seeing the pieces kind of move as my first one that I assembled together. It kind of really got things off to a good start. All of these, by the way, are done on watercolor paper. They're sketched, transferred onto watercolor paper, and then I paint them with watercolor and gouache, or a hybrid watercolor gouache paint that I like to use a lot. Then I outline everything with a very tiny detail brush pen. I cut everything out. I poke holes where I have planned them in my sketch, and you can even see some of my transfer here. It's very interesting throughout this process as I created each one of these. There's a bit of, light engineering involved with figuring out where things were going to be attached, where a hole is going to be poked to then put the brads in between. It was very interesting. There's a lot you had to think about because it wasn't just a 2-dimensional sort of thing. I had to really be thinking about what piece is going to be in the front, what's going to be behind, okay, I don't want to put a brad right through someone's face, so where can I attach it, or how do I adjust the drawing to make that fit? It was really a lot of problem solving throughout the whole month. It was quite an interesting sort of experience. So this was my first one, Over the Garden Wall. I'm just gonna line them up on this because I'm gonna probably film a short form thing after this. So I'm doing two birds, one stone here. Next up, we have Igor from Frankenstein. Specifically, Young Frankenstein was who I was referencing for this. This was when I started to examine a bunch of the Peachtober prompts, and this was for day 2 kite. So I thought of, Igor with his kite with the lightning bolts up on top of the castle there, and this is what kind of came about. It's fun that he is fully movable. Obviously, his little head moves. His arms move, his legs move. He's just such a wonky little guy. Definitely one of my favorites, and a bit more labor intensive when it came to cutting him out because he's got quite a bit of detail. And this little kite I just have very loosely taped on the back of this, which actually I should probably reinforce. I didn't want to... Certain props you'll see throughout this where I kind of made the decision to just tape them to the back of this. You'll see the tightrope walker is one later on where I didn't actually want to attach her prop, but rather just tape it to the back of it so that I could kind of move it around or remove it if I wanted to. All right, so that is Igor. We'll put him over there. Next up, day 3. I think the prompt was Slug, if I remember correctly, which I immediately just thought of bugs, which made me think of Edgar from Men in Black. This is a very niche, specific sort of reference, but I don't know. I watched this movie a lot growing up. It was just one we had on VHS. I remember seeing it a lot. I remember thinking how gross he was, his voice, and, it's like he's wearing an Edgar suit, and the sugar water just really made me think of that. There was a prompt later on in the month that was, I think, truck. So in my mind, I also thought I would do Edgar and then I would do his little exterminator truck later on in the month, but that never happened. I think by that point I was drifting away from the prompts and kind of doing my own thing. So there is Edgar with his little sugar water, and it's kind of fun that he's so wonky. I remember kind of wishing that I had articulated the lower part of his legs because you'll see most of my other ones, the legs are 3 sort of pieces. But I feel like this kind of works for him because he walks so stiff and weird in the movie as it is. So there is Edgar. Okay, next was actually the guy from Beetlejuice, Adam Maitland, but I have paired him with Barbara a little bit later on, so you'll see him a little bit later, which I think brings me to day... Oh boy, that was day 6. Okay, so I'm gonna skip to day 5, which was Poppy. Which, not totally to the prompt. I went a little off cue for this, but I'm sure in the May Queen's outfit, there is a Poppy somewhere. If you're new to me or this channel, I'm a big fan of Midsummer. It's one of my favorite horror films, so I knew I wanted to do the May Queen. This was also kind of an easier one, at least as far as making all the little pieces, because it just was her head, her little arms, and then sort of her giant flower piece here. So even though this was pretty labor intensive as far as painting all the flowers on, which even then I tried to simplify it as best I could, it was easy in the sense that I only had, these 3 smaller pieces to put together to cut out and attach. But I loved the idea of having just her arms just on here randomly so you could kind of position them however, but her little arms just sort of dangling in her big May Queen flower outfit. Looking very cranky. I absolutely love. All right, day 6. This was one that I had actually planned prior to looking at the Peachtober prompts. I knew I wanted to do the girl from the Ring because I thought that it would be hilarious if I also made a television for her to go through. It just so happened that it worked really well when I saw the prompt list. Day 6 was Ring. So I just stuck this idea that I already had sketched right to the prompt and it kind of worked out. So obviously we have the separate gal here. And even with this one, I was intentional on how I attached her arms so that I could sort of go like this and slide her through the TV if I wanted to. And this was really more specifically for when I filmed my short form content, which I have the TV and I just cut a little slit in it here so that she could then come through the TV like so, which does take a little bit of finagling just because you don't want the brads to get caught on the TV, but I thought that was pretty funny. This was also really fun to illustrate because she is such a specific sort of gray blue sort of hue, and I also wanted the TV to look like a distressed sort of picture as well. So there is the ring. She was definitely a fan favorite, I think, on Instagram as well. I think of all the ones that I posted, she was one of the more popular ones, which I get it. It's pretty wild. Day 7 was strawberry. I really went back and forth about what I was going to do for this particular prompt, but funny enough, and you'll see this later on with a different paper doll, is that I ended up just really doing my own thing for this, in that I wasn't referencing like a specific character or like a specific movie. I just figured, let me do Marie Antoinette, because I thought about Let Them Eat Cake, which, you know, we know she probably didn't actually say, right? But I associate it, and she's also just one of my favorite like historical characters to illustrate and visually and whatnot. So I thought it might be fun to do a Marie Antoinette with her head detached, so her head moves, with a little bit of a strawberry cake. I also wanted her dress to really look a bit strawberry-esque, so you'll even notice with like her shoes, I wanted the main part of the shoe to be kind of berry-like, and the little detail to be almost like a strawberry leaf sort of detail on top. So her whole vibe sort of evokes strawberry vibes, but she actually is one of my favorites. She might actually be my favorite. I do have one other one that I really love. And it's funny that my two favorites are the ones that really came straight from my brain. So I don't know, I feel like that was a good takeaway for me if I repeat this next year, or if I sort of continue to dabble in doing my own sort of paper dolls outside of this challenge, that I might really try to do things that are more just from my brain and not actually referencing specific sort of TV or movie kind of characters. Wow, this is really fun seeing them all lined up. I have not seen them like all together like this. This is bringing me a lot of joy. Okay, day 8, we have Leaf. And I did Little Shop of Horrors. This was supposed to be like an easy one for me, in that I tried to keep the pieces as minimal as possible. The more pieces a paper doll has, the more difficult it is, both in the assembly, the illustration, and sort of putting it all together. Like it's just more time consuming. So I tried to give myself a couple of days where it was a little bit on the easier side. So like our May Queen is in that boat, right? She has just kind of one big piece and two hands and a head. This was the same thing in that I had one big piece that everything just attached to, and I had 2 separate sort of little mouth pieces here for the plant. Really love this. It's scanned really well too. So that's gonna be something else that I'm hoping to do, is that I did scan all of these prior to putting them all together, in the hopes that I might be able to offer a few of these as a digital download, so you can print and assemble your own paper dolls as well if you like any of these. Okay, then we have day, what day was this? Okay, then we have day 9, which was rope. This was definitely one of the more complex ones. Initially for rope, I thought I was gonna do Carrie with the bucket of blood attached to a rope like above her, but I just couldn't figure out the logistics of like how to execute that. So I then went to one of my favorite inspirations, which is the Haunted Mansion, and it's Sally Slater on her stretching portrait balancing on the rope there. What is fun with this one is that she is attached to this sort of larger background, so she can sort of teeter-totter about. Her arms are fully articulated, and this umbrella is also its own piece as well, so that can come off if I want to, and then she sort of dances about like this. But it is fun because the main background is one piece, so things are really sturdy, even with how articulated the rest of her body and arms are. Her arms were an interesting one to figure out. Originally, I thought I was going to do just one piece, but because of the umbrella element, it just ended up being easier to have it fully articulated so that I could use her arms to actually hold the umbrella in place. Like I said, a lot of thinking, a lot of, engineering that goes behind this. It's not as simple as just sketching and painting and cutting them out. I really genuinely had to think about how each one was going to be actually put together. Okay, next we have day 10, which is Critter, which again, I went back and forth on which direction to go in with this, but I decided to do Rose the raccoon Very niche reference from Christine McConnell's Curious Mind. It was a very short-lived TV show on Netflix, and she was one of the puppet characters, basically part of Christine's menagerie that lived in her house. She is so funny. She's basically like a Frankenstein raccoon. Her sort of little backstory is that she was roadkill and Christine put her back together. So she's part raccoon, part skunk. She has a fork for an arm. I just think she's so funny, and I love her little facial expression there. I feel like this really, if you know the show and you know this particular puppet, I really think this captures the spirit of Rose quite well. And I thought that it'd be funny to have her sort of bursting out of a like a little Halloween cake. Because she does like her treats. So that is for Critter. Okay, day 11 was Seagull. So I think of the birds, I think of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, one of my favorite Hitchcock films. I loved this movie growing up. As a kid in middle school, I literally dressed up as Tippi Hedren in 7th grade with birds attached to me pecking my face. No one knew who I was, but I was thrilled. So yeah, that's what I decided to do. We did Tippi Hedren in her little green suit, brown shoes, and the seagulls are all individually attached. I just have them washi taped on because, again, I didn't want to commit to the birds being in specific places. And if this does become a digital download, this is one of those things where the birds are just off to their side and you can put them wherever you want. The thing too is that I was trying to minimize the amount of brads that I was going to be using for these additional sort of props. It really kind of like clutters things. Like if all of these birds had a brad on them attached to her, it would just be too much. And I still wanted other parts of her to be able to move, like her arm and her hand and whatnot. I thought that would just be kind of funny to be able to move the birds attached to her a little bit as they peck her face. Definitely a favorite of mine. I feel like that little green outfit she has too is just so classic. Okay, day 12, we have Bark, which I'm sure most people would think tree bark, but I thought bark like a werewolf. So I went with Nightmare Before Christmas, specifically the werewolf character. He is one of my favorites. I actually have a plushie version of him at home, and I just absolutely love him. He's so cool. So yeah, did the werewolf from Nightmare Before Christmas. Really loved illustrating him. I love doing any sort of detailed fur like this. I also love painting plaid. I don't know why, it's just something that I really love. I also just really like his proportions. He worked out really well as far as some elements being attached behind versus in the front. So as you can see here, these front legs worked really well being attached in the front, whereas most of the time I was attaching from the back. And these arms here, I have one that's sort of back and one that's sort of forward. I think really kind of actually gives him a bit of an interesting perspective versus some of the other ones, because he really truly is kind of like in profile, which kind of makes him kind of fun. So I really enjoyed. He was a fun one to paint. I really liked painting him. Okay, so that was day 12. Then we have day 13. This was a tricky one. I had to think really outside the box on this. This was, for the prompt, was marble. My brain just went to the fireplace in Beetlejuice. I think this counts as marble. I mean, I don't know. I just thought of him. This was another one where I was trying to give myself a bit of an easy one. I probably should have articulated his head and maybe even like the little book, but I was trying to give myself an easy day on this one by just having one big sort of background piece, and then he is movable there in the middle. So kind of a more simple one, but I needed that just as balance and as a means of sort of keeping my momentum going throughout this challenge. All right, day 14 was Brush. I went back and forth a lot on this one. I didn't know who I was gonna do, but I ended up doing Vigo from Ghostbusters 2, the guy in the painting. This was actually an idea from James, because when I was trying to come up with something for Brush, he was like, why don't you do something from like a painting, something that's like created by a paintbrush, which I thought was really clever. So I thought, okay, let's do the guy from Ghostbusters 2 in the painting, because why not? Probably my least favorite of the ones. I really like his face and the pink slime, but beyond that, I'm not the biggest fan because I just think his proportions are really off. I tried to make it easy on myself by, again, doing one sort of big background piece with just a couple of movable pieces. I mean, I think I captured him, but he is definitely probably my least favorite of the ones that I had created. On the flip side, we have day 15, which is Aquarium, which I had to do the creature from the Black Lagoon. which I think is really fun. Is some of his proportions a little wonky? I think so. However, I think his coloring and just the way that he's sort of detailed in paint, I think kind of makes up for it. I just really love how vibrant he is and the detail in sort of like his gills and scales and his little claw hand there. I also love his feet. I think his feet are really funny and fun. This was terribly annoying to cut out, as you might imagine, all of these little edges here. I used my tiny little Tim Holtz scissors, which were a game changer. So yeah, he's a little wonky, but you know, he's a sea creature. What do you expect? I also think the thing too, that the paper dolls are actually quite forgiving when it comes to like accuracy of, you know, proportions and whatnot, because I don't know, I feel like paper dolls are kind of wonky anyways. So I don't know. I just let it go. All right, day 16, we have Hatch. What was I gonna do? Oh, originally I thought I was gonna do Constance Hatchaway from the Haunted Mansion, but because I had already done a Haunted Mansion one, I decided to do something different. We had just watched Gremlins. We are a big fan of Gremlins in this house, so I thought, okay, let's do a gremlin hatching out of his egg here. And that's what I did. So this was day 16 Hatch. Again, kind of an easy one in that it was just 2 pieces attached with 1 brad. Anything with just 1 brad is a nice easy one, and a lot of it's the same sort of color tones as well, so he was a little bit on the easy side to paint too. I also really like the shape of him. He's a very different shape than some of the other ones, so it's kind of a nice bit of a change there. All right, day 17 was Whistle. This was one that I knew early on that I was going to do because I just immediately thought of the song from Kill Bill. So I decided to do Elle Driver in her little nurse outfit from that very famous scene of Kill Bill Volume 1. I was on the fence about this one when I had it sketched, but I actually really liked the way that it turned out in paper doll form, mainly because I really love her head. I think I nailed the illustration of her head, and even though she's a little bobblehead-ish, I think it works in the format of a paper doll. So, okay, now we have Adam and Barbara. So I'm gonna jump back to Adam here, who was an earlier day in the challenge. He was day 4 and the prompt was gingham. So here is Adam here with his little movable head and his eyeball hand. Again, from Beetlejuice. I had such a long list of Beetlejuice ideas. I mean, my gosh, there's so many of those things would make great paper dolls. For Slug, I almost did just a giant sandworm because I thought a really big, like, moving sandworm would be a lot of fun to do. But add it to the list for next year because I went with the Maitlands and the guy in the fireplace instead. And then towards the end, unrelated to a prompt, I created Barbara because it just didn't seem right for him to not have, you know, his mate with him there. So we have Adam and Barbara together. I'm really happy with how they turned out, and they're really fun together. And painting her dress was a lot of fun too, just trying to get the coloring right on that. It looks a certain way in different stills, so yeah, and their proportions and everything. I think this is a really fun set of the 2 of them together. Oh my gosh, it's so fun seeing them all together. Oh, I haven't done this. Wow, okay. This is really fun. Let me move this one up a little bit. How fun is this? Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, moving right along. We are now in rogue territory here where I went completely off prompt and was returning back to sketches that I had done sort of earlier on, ideas that I had, again, prior to trying to connect them to a prompt list. So we have actually my first 2 that I sketched prior to thinking I was going to do it with a prompt list, and it is Debbie and Fester. They were the very first ones that I sketched. So I have a bit of an attachment to the 2 of them. It's also just, Addams Family Values is also just one of my favorite movies of all time. So being able to do the 2 of them is just so funny. So we have Debbie. Did I capture her face? Probably not entirely accurate, but I do think I got the outfit right, that is for sure, and getting the little details of her jewelry and using her necklace as an attachment point for her head was quite helpful. You don't realize how weird it is to attach heads to things. You really have to be thinking about how, you know, where it's going and whatnot, otherwise it looks really weird. So I was able to use that little necklace as an attachment point and it worked out really well. So Her little arms are fully articulated. I also had a lot of fun filming the short form video of this on Instagram. Check that out. It's pretty funny. Then, of course, we have Fester. My favorite outfit that Fester wears is when he's cooking their anniversary dinner. I just love the little, like, apron that he wears. And he's trying to guess, like, what the gift is. And he's like, it's a bomb. It's just, that scene is so funny. Anyways, the two of them together, I absolutely love. And I just think it's really funny. Plus, look at his face. Come on, you can't resist that. It's just so funny. Okay, we are officially running out of space here. We have 2 left. This one, again, this was just one that I had done because I thought it would be really cool to try one where you can swap out something with it. So I decided to do the Grand High Witch from Witches, but with 2 different heads. So we've got her with her scary witch version, and then her regular sort of masked version, if you will. So you can change the heads out on her, which I thought was really fun. I really am pleased with how I was able to capture her different faces here. Also, just the hands were a lot different than some previous hands that I had done, which was kind of fun. A lot of my other hands are just kind of in basic, like, stationary sort of paper doll form, like the Midsummer ones here. A lot of them are just kind of basic. This was my first one where I really had them, like, doing some things, because you'll notice she points a lot in that movie. So I had one in sort of a pointed position and another one sort of like in a flared kind of hand position, and I had a really good time sort of illustrating that together. So she's got her little cloak. This was also a very interesting one to sort of engineer so that it made sense for both heads. And I had to figure out where that anchor point was so that I wasn't eating into her face. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just put a Brad in her face. I have to put it in the right spot, at the same anchor spot for both heads, so it made sense. It's a lot. This took a lot of brain power trying to figure all this out, let me tell you. Okay, last and certainly not least, this was a Baba Yaga house that was actually something that I had sketched a long time ago. And I just figured, you know what? This might look cool as a paper doll. And it did. It totally did. This is, in fact, one of my favorites. So this one and the Marie Antoinette. So the Baba Yaga and Marie Antoinette are my 2 favorites from the month, which, again, were mostly from just my brain, not really exactly referencing a character or a movie scene. So it got me kind of really excited and wanting to explore this a bit more of, like, how can I just create other things, other creatures, my own stuff, and turn them into paper dolls. I'm particularly proud of this one as well because I figured out this attachment piece to have some of the shingles of the roof with the wing there. So it kind of just makes sense. It looks a little bit more natural versus had I just stuck a wing right to the side of the house there. So I'm quite proud of that little thing there. I also really like the colors of it. Also, I added a bit of a texture to the house itself with a bit of a paper towel technique. I will refer you to the short form content for that. You will see that sort of moment. I also have this in bigger detail over on Patreon. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this one. And now I want to make a whole bunch of Baba Yaga houses, but like different color variations. I kind of want to make a gingerbread one for Christmas, not gonna lie. I just think that would be really, really fun. Oh my gosh, look at them all together. How magical is this? Oh my gosh. Wow, this brings me immense joy. Immense joy. Look at them all. All right, well, there you have it. There is the 22 paper dolls that I created during the month of October for my little art challenge for myself. I had a blast making these. I mean, this is an insane amount of work that came together, and I genuinely enjoyed the entire process of this. Like, I don't think I would have made as many if I wasn't having fun. You can tell that I had a really good time with this. So it was a lot of fun. I do see myself continuing to make these, not gonna lie. Not at the frequency of which I was making these, but I am curious to keep sort of playing with this and just see kind of where I end up, or other things that I create, or again, even just exploring some of my own drawings and things from my mind and see just kind of what happens. I don't know. I haven't messed with the digital files yet. That is something that I'm hoping to do, is play around with that a little bit and see how many of these I can turn into digital downloads. I'm sure I will keep you up to date on that in future studio vlogs. I hope you guys enjoyed this super in-depth tour of all the paper dolls I created during the month of October. Do follow me over on Instagram if you want to see kind of the fun little short form videos of these. It's really fun. All of those are also up here on YouTube as well if you want to look at those. Of course, if you're new here, consider subscribing. I put out at least one new video every week. For more content and for more behind the scenes on creating these, you can check out my Patreon. Otherwise, like this video if you liked it. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. I want to know which one is your favorite so I can kind of get a sense of which ones maybe to turn into digital downloads or just to know. Like, I'd love to know which one of these are your favorites. So let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!